What's good, everyone, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're reacting to DNA tests people regretted taking. So, when hearing this, the first thing that comes to mind is DNA tests. So, DNA tests to prove something. Now, originally I thought it meant proving paternity tests and such, or finding out one's ancestry. But then I realized DNA tests could literally mean different things. So I'm gonna hold off on assuming and just come up and say with the fact that maybe this is a video about DNA testing and one's ancestors. But another part of me is thinking like doing a test that involves a certain set of DNA to process uh information. What that information is could vary. It could be like a truth test. It could be a test to prove you're sober, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's what comes to mind when I think of this title. So it's either A, learning about your heritage and all that, but you regret ever learning because you find out you're related to very awful people. Or two, it involves a DNA test that if you try taking, it could literally ruin your life because the answer that is returned could like cement everything. So yeah, that's my thoughts when it comes down to it. So I hope you all enjoy this reaction video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification button to be notified immediately when the video comes out. If there's any videos you'd like to recommend that I should react to, put it down in the comment section below, and I'll react to it as soon as possible. The link to this video is down in the description below, so be sure to just be sure to give BMA some love and support for the video that they made that I'm reacting to. Now, with this said, let's get around into this video, shall we? Okay.
From a white supremacist who uncovered his
Excuse
absolute
me?
worst nightmare, to a woman who accidentally discovered the disturbing truth about her 93 siblings and many other genuinely sickening family secrets.
Oh. Okay, so I was right. It was paternity testing. Well, ancestor testing, and basically learning about your family.
Secret
So that's kind of
surprises.
crazy.
These are the people who regretted taking DNA tests.
Okay.
Sometimes DNA tests can unearth devastating and life-changing information.
You mean I'm an Indian?
But the results of this next test were a real case of karma. Craig Cobb is a self-proclaimed white supremacist who even attempted to create an all-white community in North Dakota by purchasing the land of a small town called Leith. He was so confident in his white heritage that he happily agreed to appear on the Trisha Goddard show in 2013 to have his DNA ancestry results revealed on nationwide TV. But no one could have expected what happened next. The test showed that he was 86% European and 14% Sub-Saharan African in heritage.
14% Sub-Saharan African.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
When Trisha joked that you have a little bit of black in you, Cobb was not pleased, claiming that the 14% was just statistical noise used to promote multiculturalism.
It's called statistical noise.
Okay.
You have a little black in you.
Nice try, Dingus. Imagine having your ridiculous views completely destroyed live on TV like that. Ouch. Photographer Christina Murray of Savannah, Georgia,
That's some karma,
was 36
actually. I find
when
it
she gave
amusing.
birth to her baby boy. She conceived through in vitro fertilization, which is a procedure where the egg and the sperm are initially combined in a laboratory dish outside of the body. Christina went to Savannah's coastal fertility specialists to fulfill her dream of becoming a mother, where she picked out a donor who looked like herself, Caucasian, with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. However, when Murray gave birth in December 2023, the baby boy was African American.
What?
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Now, she fell in love with her baby instantly, but deep down she knew that obviously something was wrong.
My first thought was he's absolutely beautiful. And my second thought was, what happened?
So she purchased an at-home DNA test and received results in late January of 2024, which confirmed her worst fears. Christina's son was not genetically related to her at all.
It literally said there's 0% chance of maternity.
But how could this happen? Well, the
Huh?
clinic had mixed up her embryo with an African-American couple's embryo and had inserted their biological child in her instead. And her own embryos were somehow lost. Unbelievable, right?
What?
Christina consulted with the fertility clinic in February 2024, who confirmed the mix-up and alerted the baby's biological parents. The biological parents then sued Murray for custody of their 3-month-old child, and Murray was told by her legal team that there was no chance she could win. So, tragically, Christina had to give up her baby boy.
That's enough to make a grown man cry.
The baby now lives under a different name in a different state, and Murray, who raised him for 5 months, was left heartbroken. She decided to sue the fertility clinic and is seeking damages in excess of $75,000. Now, who can blame her? She was forced to unwittingly become a surrogate for someone else's kid. That's seriously messed up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that.
British talk show host Jeremy Kyle is the king of...
I'm gonna be honest, that is actually devastating to hear. Like, wow. Okay. I don't know what to say about this. All I know is that that's a messy situation. And I feel bad for her because she literally carried the child and raised the child for 5 months, but was forced to give the child back to biological parents. And that's all because they did a DNA test. Oh, God.
Dramatic DNA test reveals. And it doesn't get much better than the story of Lee and Paul, who appeared on the show in 2012, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. This couple had fallen in love after meeting online and even planned to get married. But it wasn't until Lee introduced Paul to his mother and father that the pair realized their fairy tale romance could potentially be more of a nightmare. Lee's mother, Ina, had remarked that their son's new partner, who had been adopted at birth, had a spooky resemblance to her ex-husband, Ron, and the two even shared a surname. But as she had early onset Alzheimer's, she couldn't remember much of the past. Determined to get answers, the couple went on the Jeremy Kyle show to confirm or debunk these striking similarities, and were shocked to learn via a DNA test that Paul was in fact Ina and Ron's son, making the couple biological half-brothers. Although devastated that their relationship had been founded on incestuous love, the two men agreed to remain close friends and support each other as they moved on with their lives as brothers.
Okay, that's
From the age
actually
of
kind
10,
of respectable,
Jacoba
in all honesty.
Ballard knew she was a product of IVF, and as an only child, she dreamed of siblings. Her mother told her that her
IVF?
donor's sperm was used a maximum of 3 times, so Jacoba figured she might have 1 or 2 siblings. Simple math, right? Well, not quite. In 2014, at age 35, she spat in a tube and sent it off for a DNA test, hoping to find a couple of long-lost siblings. But when her results came back in the fall of 2014, they didn't just reveal her family tree, but rather a family forest, revealing 7 half-siblings. Considering patients at the fertility clinic were told the same sperm source was only supposed to be used 3 times in total, something was clearly off. Jacoba contacted her mother's fertility doctor in Indiana, Donald Klein, for answers. But he claimed her mother's documents were long gone. Suspicious much? With nowhere else to turn, Jacoba and her newly found siblings conducted their own research. And what they found out was twisted as hell. Their real
What?
biological father wasn't some anonymous donor, it was Dr. Klein himself.
What?
It turns out that without their consent, Dr. Klein had been impregnating his patients with his own special formula for years.
I said, unfortunately, Dr. Klein didn't use your sperm, he used his own.
And at the time, he wasn't even breaking the law. As shocking as it seems, no law in Indiana explicitly prohibited a fertility doctor from using their own genetic material without patients' knowledge. After being basically completely ignored by authorities, the siblings took to a local news channel to bring more attention, and maybe some justice to their story. The news report brought in a surge of attention and additional investigation, leading to the revelation of an insane number of total siblings, revealing the full extent of Klein's activities. By 2017, 22 half-siblings had been discovered. With these matches popping up on various DNA sites, Jacoba was the one to call her newly found siblings to break the news.
Going to call them, and I know that I'm going to ruin their life.
In the same year,
Yeah.
the siblings united
That
and
makes
saw
sense.
Klein taken to court. But as per law, he could only be hit with charges for obstruction of justice for lying during the investigation into his activities. He got off with a suspended license, no jail time, and a measly fine of $500. Basically just a slap on the wrist. Though this came as a major disappointment to the siblings, there was a silver lining in the introduction of a new legislation in 2018 that banned fertility fraud in Indiana. In 2022, a Netflix documentary named Our Father about the sibling story hit the scene. And in the aftermath, the number of confirmed Klein half-siblings reached an astonishing 94. It was an insanely
What?
difficult revelation for each of them to deal with. But the publicity did at least result in a sense of justice, displaying Klein's name, face, and crimes for the world to see. Creepily enough, Klein isn't alone in his actions. 44 other doctors have been proven to have committed the same crime.
Excuse
Notably,
me?
the Dutch doctor Jan Karbot, who used his own specimen to father 49 children. Who knew spitting in a tube could expose this level of crazy? For Jacoba and her 93 siblings, their DNA tests didn't just reveal their roots, they unearthed a nightmare. But if you thought that was bad, the similar case I'm about to talk about led to something so disturbing you'll wish it wasn't true. In 2020, Victoria Hill took a 23andMe DNA test to simply check out the genetic history of her health. So it came as a massive shock when her DNA test results unexpectedly revealed that she had not one, not two, but a whole other 22 half-siblings she had no idea about. And the kicker is, they all shared a biological father, another sicko fertility doctor named Dr. Burton Caldwell. Now, it turned out
What
Caldwell
is
wasn't
with
using anonymous donor
fertility
samples like he
doctors?
claimed. He'd been using his own. What is up with these creepy doctors? You'd think a
Exactly.
revelation like this was life-shattering enough, but wait until you hear this. Victoria realized one of her half-sibling matches looked really familiar because he was her high school boyfriend.
I was intimate with my half-brother.
And that's right. She'd unknowingly been intimate with one of her half-brothers.
Brother,
Yeesh, talk about an awkward family reunion.
Yeehaw!
Of course, Alabama-related
Dear
jokes
God.
aside, this news hit Victoria hard. Everything she thought she knew about her past was completely false, but instead of keeping quiet, Victoria chose to speak up. She's now sharing her story to raise awareness about fertility fraud and the unfortunate, not-so-rare cases where doctors secretly use their own genetic material during fertility treatments. Her goal? To make sure future patients know exactly whose DNA they're getting, to prevent any unwitting siblings later meeting and, well, you know the rest. Bet you wish you didn't, though, right?
I'm
Reality
horrified
TV
for her.
has been offering paternity tests long before DNA home testing became the next big thing. and furious mothers have been appearing on the Maury Povich show in search of the real father of their kids since 1991. In 2008, a 19-year-old woman named Alejandrina took her ex-boyfriend Jose on the show to prove that he was the father of her twin boys. But she was about to get the shock of a lifetime. Before taking the test, Alejandrina had promised Jose that she had not slept with anyone else. But the test said otherwise when it revealed that Jose was only the father to one of the boys. This unbelievable feat also happened years earlier on the show when a woman named Regina learned that her boyfriend Eric was only related to one of her twins. This medical anomaly only has a 0.001% chance of occurring when a woman continues ovulating during pregnancy. So Povich was gobsmacked to see it happen twice on the show, but not as gobsmacked as Regina and Alejandrina, who had some serious explaining to do. Clearly, Maury Povich has spawned some of the most iconic, crazy moments in daytime television. But the one up next, in my opinion, has been kept secretly under the radar. Caucasian fiancés Amanda and James entered the Maury Povich show after a dispute of paternity. The issue was that James was questioning if he was the true father of their 4-year-old twins, Stormy and Jameson. Why was he questioning his parentage so much that he went on the Maury Povich show, you might ask? Well, to be blunt, the white couple's supposed children were very obviously mixed race.
Just kept on every time we were out somewhere, my family, they would just say that they're not. There's no way.
Amanda swore she didn't cheat on James.
I have never cheated on Jake.
Though she refused to take a lie detector test.
We asked her to take a lie detector test. She wouldn't do it.
Then came the DNA results.
You are not the father.
Yep, to the surprise of absolutely no one, James was neither child's father. There's no denying DNA, or sight in this case. Lydia Fairchild was a single mother of 2, with another baby on the way, when she found herself in a sticky financial situation and decided to apply for government assistance. As part of the process, she needed to DNA test her existing children to prove that they were hers. But when the test came back, she was dumbfounded to learn that it indicated she was not their mother at all, but likely an aunt. Still reeling from this impossible information and facing potential fraud charges, Fairchild requested a government witness at the birth of her next child, and an immediate DNA test, only that one came back negative too. Some seriously baffled scientists eventually concluded that Fairchild is known as a rare medical chimera, meaning she had absorbed her own twin in the womb. And it was this non-identical twin's DNA which was showing up on her results. Sometimes DNA tests raise more questions than answers, and learning that you are a hybrid of your unborn twin is some pretty mind-blowing news.
Yeah,
in December
it does sound a bit
2014,
shocking.
filmmaker Michael Usry was chilling in his home in New Orleans
Though I
with
don't-
3
But that might be the case. It hasn't really clicked into my head about how shocking it might be. So, it might come back and hit me later.
cops showed up at his door. They explained that they were investigating a local hit-and-run and asked to take him in for some run-of-the-mill questions. Usry obliged, wanting to help, but once the questioning began, he realized he'd been duped. The cops turned out to be FBI agents, and Usry was actually a suspect for the 1996 demise of one Angie Dodge in Idaho Falls. The Angie Dodge case was a massive mishandling by Idaho cops. Detectives had recovered a male DNA sample from the scene of the crime. You'd think this would be a massive lead, but the case hit a complete wall. Scrambling for anything to put this case to a close, they pinned it on a young man named Christopher Tapp. He had been spotted with Dodge at a gathering with friends the night before, and that was enough for the cops to be like, yeah, he'll do. Tapp was coerced into a false confession after the cops threatened him with the death penalty if he failed to admit guilt, and he was wrongfully imprisoned in 1998. In the years that followed, Angie's mother became convinced that the real killer was still out there. So, in 2013, she got help from a false confession expert and the Innocence Project. Together, they got Christopher's conviction overturned, freeing him after 21 years in jail and reopening the case. A year later, in 2014, detectives decided to try a new approach to the old case, with familial genealogy tracing. which is where you compare crime scene DNA to an ancestry database. This method is highly debated. On one hand, it has brought some of the world's most heinous criminals to justice. However, it often isn't 100% accurate, and arguably a massive privacy violation for those using the databases. And this, sadly, is one of those cases where genealogy tracing messes up. Detectives ran the crime scene DNA through the ancestry databases, and a close match lit up. A man called Michael Usry Sr., our friend Michael's dad, who had donated his DNA to a Mormon-run research foundation named Sorensen Molecular Genealogy Project, which was later sold to Ancestry.com. Michael's dad matched 34 out of 35 alleles with the killer. Alleles are different versions of a gene. They're a tiny part of DNA, often determining physical traits, like eye or hair color. If detectives found a DNA match of 35 out of 35 alleles, that would effectively mean they'd found the person from the crime scene. 34 out of 35 alleles, meanwhile, indicated that Michael's dad was a close relative of the criminal, who could well be his brother or his son. So that's how the detectives came to suspect Michael Jr. The New Orleans filmmaker was found to have previously made films with grisly subject matter and had visited Idaho once, so with this seemingly painting his character, detectives were almost certain he was their guy. Yeah, no. Detectives carried out a DNA test on Michael Jr. and were shocked to find it didn't match the crime scene DNA at all. Michael Usry Jr. was completely innocent. Now, the case finally came to a close in 2019, years after Michael's brief arrest, when an extensive family tree construction, genetic analysis, and suspect surveillance by authorities finally found the real perpetrator. It turned out to be a man named Brian Drips, who was found to be a distant relative of the Usry family and lived across the street from the victim at the time of the crime. Detectives monitoring Drips retrieved a cigarette discarded by him and found his DNA to be a perfect match to that of the crime scene. Drips was, thankfully, finally prosecuted for the demise of Angie Dodds. For Michael Jr., though, the ordeal was life-changing and infuriating. He said, "I was angry at everybody. The police, scientists, these database companies, How could they misfire so bad?" It was proof that while DNA can reveal truth, it can also ruin lives in the wrong hands. So the next time you send off your DNA to find out if you're 12% Scandinavian, remember, sometimes curiosity can get you more answers than you ever wanted. A heinously violent criminal who had eluded capture during the 1980s was finally brought to justice in 2010 with the help of a DNA test carried out by his own son. The man, known as the ominous Grim Sleeper, had operated in California and was charged with 10 counts of human deletion and 1 attempted human deletion, decades after the cold case had been considered unsolved. When the suspect's son Christopher was convicted for a felony and cheek swabbed for DNA, the local police database identified a potential match with some of the DNA left at the Grim Sleeper's crime scenes. Police then focused their attention on Christopher's father, Lonnie Franklin, and sent an undercover officer to a restaurant Franklin was visiting. Disguised as a waiter, the officer obtained a slice of discarded pizza from Franklin's plate and took it back to the station for DNA testing, where it proved a 100% match. They say snitches get stitches, but what if your own DNA blew your cover? In December 2016, 31-year-old Jessica Allen gave birth to what everyone believed were identical twin boys. She was acting as a surrogate for a Chinese couple and had been told 6 weeks earlier that she was carrying twins. So everyone assumed that the embryo had just split, making them standard identical twins. But things took a strange turn. After the C-section, Jessica wasn't allowed to hold the babies. Though her contract gave her the right to meet them, they were immediately whisked away by the surrogacy agency to be with their legal parents. And all she received was a photo. Now in it, she noticed something odd. The babies didn't look identical. One appeared to be fully Chinese, the other didn't. The agency brushed off her concerns, but weeks later, the legal mother messaged Jessica asking if she'd noticed that they looked different. Doubts turned to shock when a DNA test revealed the truth. one of the babies was Jessica's biological child.
Oh.
Somehow, she had become pregnant with her own baby while already pregnant, a rare phenomenon known as superfetation. Fewer than a dozen such cases have ever been documented. And Jessica was stunned, saying, "I carried my own child. I didn't even know he was mine." The nightmare deepened when the Chinese couple demanded $22,000 to return Jessica's biological son. The Chinese couple were reportedly advised by their own lawyers to make this demand as a combo of wanting to recoup some additional twin-related surrogacy fees and also out of fear the adopting couple were about to be sued by Jessica. Desperate and terrified, Jessica and her husband Wardle fought back, calling their own lawyers and pleading with the agency and attempting multiple pickups, all initially denied. Finally, in February 2017, 2 months after the birth, baby Malachi was reunited with his parents. But the victory came at a cost. The Allens were left in debt, exhausted, and betrayed by the agency. Jessica says she'll never pursue surrogacy again. But out of this surreal twist came Malachi, a son she almost never knew was hers. In an anonymous post on Reddit in 2018, a son recalls how he bought 6 DNA tests for his family to open on Christmas.
It's crazy what these DNA stories are about. Like, they can lead to the most chaotic twists that one would not expect. And others are like, it's just surprising how these things work. And that it can actually just catch you off guard.
Christmas Day, but perhaps this is one gift you should reconsider giving this year. As everyone excitedly opened their presents, the man's mother began immediately freaking out, telling her family not to take the tests because of some mysterious chemical risks. Learning that there were no chemicals involved, she then tried to convince them that only one child should take the test and resell the others. After a private argument unfolded upstairs between his parents, the son was sure he had truly ruined Christmas. Preempting the test's inevitable results, his parents revealed that their first daughter had a different father, who had passed away shortly after her birth. A close friend supported their mother through this difficult time, and they fell in love and started their own family. Nothing says Merry Christmas like a hidden family secret, or should I say, police not your dad. For over 40 years, California's most terrifying predator haunted the suburbs. He was known by many names, including the original Night Stalker, but by 2018, the world would know him as the Golden State Killer. In the 1970s and 80s, he committed at least 50 assaults, multiple home burglaries, and 12 full-blown human eliminations across California. He was meticulous, cruel, and seemingly untraceable. Police had his DNA, but for decades they had no name, no face, just a string of genetic code that led nowhere. Until 2018, when science got personal. Detectives decided to try something radical: genetic genealogy. They uploaded the killer's DNA to GED Match, a public ancestry database for finding long-lost relatives.
Oh, damn.
You know, like, surprise, I have a cousin in Nebraska. Only this time, the surprise was, surprise, your relative is a serial killer. The DNA hit came back with a close match, and investigators began building a family tree from distant cousins, fourth cousins, and great-great-whatevers. Hundreds of names, decades of branches. After months of detective work, the web narrowed down to one man: Joseph James D'Angelo. A former police officer, a husband, a father. A guy who for years blended perfectly into quiet California neighborhoods that he once stalked. When police tested a sample of D'Angelo's DNA from his car door handle, it was a perfect match. After over 4 decades, the Golden State Killer had finally been unmasked. Not by a witness, not by a confession, but by a 23andMe style family match. In 2020, D'Angelo pled guilty to 13 snuffing outs and 13 abductions, finally bringing justice to his victims, and proving that in the age of DNA, you can run, but you can't hide from your genes. This story comes straight from Reddit, where one user discovered their grandfather's disappearance was much more salacious than it seemed. It started innocently enough. They took a 23andMe test to learn about their ancestry. Previously, their family tree had a lot of gaps in it, given that their grandfather had supposedly been lost at sea when their mom was a child. They wanted to find out more about their long-lost grandpappy's side of the family, but when the results came back, the family tree looked less like a tree and more like a forest. Unexpected cousin matches kept appearing all over the place where no family link had previously been known about. After a few emails, some sleuthing, and one very awkward family message chain, the truth came out. Grandpa hadn't died in that tragic accident decades ago. Nope, he'd faked his death, changed his name, and started a brand new life hundreds of miles away. All it took was a $99 DNA kit and Wi-Fi to uncover a secret that had stayed buried for half a century. For Alice Collins Plevich, a simple DNA test in 2012 revealed a decades-spanning mystery. Alice had expected to confirm her all-Irish roots, since she'd been brought up thinking both her parents' ancestors originated from the British Isles. So it was odd when her results revealed that she was half European Jewish. Baffled, she tested relatives on both sides. All came back purely Irish, except one man, a cousin on her father's side, who turned out to be completely genetically unrelated. And this puzzling fact, it turned out, also revealed that her father's sister was not his sister by blood. As the mystery thickened, the family dug into old records. Alice's father, Jim Collins, had been born to Irish immigrants in 1913 and raised in a New York orphanage. Yet his DNA said otherwise. There was one explanation that made sense. Jim must have been switched at birth in the hospital. The family spent 2.5 years chasing every clue before the final proof emerged. The breakthrough came when another woman, who'd taken a DNA test expecting to be genetically Jewish, was surprised to find that she was Irish. Some further digging revealed her grandfather, who was genetically Irish, had been born on the exact same day as Jim Collins, at the same hospital, but sent home with a Jewish family.
Oh! So it's one of those switch at birth stories. So that means technically they're using the other person's actual name. Well, I'll have to admit that it's probably would be a pretty bad idea just to you know, get switched back names, because I don't know. Seems a bit what's the proper word? Weird? Uncomfortable? I don't know. But I think you get the point. I just lost thought on what I was saying. That honestly sucks. That just happened. Having a coherent thought and then bam. It just disappeared. Ugh. I hate when that happens. Anyway, okay, yeah. Basically, it'd be weird to go by another name
lived
that
their
you
entire
don't know.
lives, unaware of their true heritage. In 2021,
insane, really.
Jenna Jerwatowski decided to take an at-home DNA test after seeing how cool it was watching her friend get her results. She thought it would be awesome to learn more about her family and ancestry, so she bought one. What's the worst that can happen, right? Well, little did she know she was going to uncover something way darker than distant cousins. In 2022, a year after she took her DNA test, Jenna was at work when she received a very strange phone call. On the other end was a detective from Michigan who explained they had reopened a cold case from 1997. The case in hand was infamous in Jenna's area, a grisly crime involving the fate of one baby Garnet. The tale goes that the tragically lost infant was found in a campground toilet at the Garnet Lake Campground in the Upper Peninsula's township. An investigation at the time revealed the baby was likely prematurely born, and asphyxiation listed as the cause of the demise, something which could have been prevented if the mother had sought medical help. But given the obscure location the tragic soul was dumped in, the conclusion was that it was intentional. However, police were left stumped for a suspect, with no clue or trail for months. At the time, there was nothing more they could do. That was until 2017, when a detective decided to give familial genetic genealogy tracing a whirl. Working alongside the FBI, authorities began to map a family tree from the infant's DNA. But they found no direct link until our friend Jenna's DNA entered the database in 2022. The detective running the case rang Jenna, explaining that she was related to the baby Garnet. At first, Jenna thought it was a scammer and promptly hung up. It was only when Jenna's mom called her at work, confirming that the call was very much real, that the reality began to sink in. Jenna's mom then gave a DNA test to the cops, and the results were jaw-dropping. It turns out Jenna's mom was baby Garnet's sister, meaning that the person responsible for poor baby Garnet's demise and appalling disposal was Jenna's grandma, Nancy Gerwitowski, the woman allegedly behind it all began her court proceedings in 2024, where the high-profile, shocking case remains ongoing. An anonymous man took to Reddit in 2019 to discuss his own nightmare DNA test experience, which led to the breakup of his long-term relationship after learning some horrifying news. The 26-year-old man decided to buy himself and his girlfriend some at-home test kits for a bit of fun, but was unprepared for what they would discover. At first, neither of the tests seemed out of the ordinary until the man decided to do some digging into the names he didn't recognize as possible genetic matches, and discovered that he was related to an infamous serial killer. The man contacted his family, who admitted to knowing about this sinister blood relation, but reassured him that they had done everything to distance themselves. Unfortunately for him, the man's girlfriend was so spooked by the unnerving news that she ended their relationship, claiming that she couldn't shake the idea of her boyfriend sharing such evil blood. Poor guy. A reproductive biologist under the pseudonym George Doe took a DNA test for
Jeez, that's actually kind of depressing. I mean, his girlfriend just basically blamed him for having the blood being blood related to a criminal without his knowing. And is blaming him for that fact. That is really messed up, in all honesty. You can't blame the guy for that kind of thing.
Course he was teaching on genomes.
Some people are just gonna be like that, I guess.
Parents too. But little did he know that this would be the worst gift ever. George discovered that he shared a 22% DNA match with someone he didn't recognize, and learned that a result like that, in the vicinity of a 25% match, may indicate a grandfather, uncle, or half-sibling. Curious to find out more, he asked his father to check his results, and surprisingly, the man, named Thomas, didn't show up at all, until George selected an option to view close relatives on the site, which revealed a bombshell. George Doe's father was a 50% match to Thomas, indicating that he was Thomas's father, too. George freaked out, contacted Thomas, and discovered that he had been adopted at birth and was searching for his real parents. George tried to set the wheels in motion for his newfound sibling to reunite with his family, but his plan backfired, as the revelation ripped his own family apart, causing his parents to divorce after the news apparently reopened some old wounds between them. Though the exact details seemingly remain a dirty family secret. Even the rich and famous can't escape the occasional shocking family plot twist. When Sex and the City star Kim Cattrall appeared on the family history exploring TV show Who Do You Think You Are, she expected a touching journey through her ancestry. What she found instead a real-life disappearing act that would make Houdini proud. Back in
Really?
1930s Liverpool, her grandfather vanished without a trace, leaving behind his wife and 3 daughters. For decades, the family believed he died, but as Kim dug deeper, she uncovered the shocking truth. He hadn't died at all. He'd stowed away on a ship to Australia, started a second family, and never looked back. Kim described the discovery as both heartbreaking and fascinating. Realizing her family's mystery wasn't merely a tragedy, it was a reinvention. 36-year-old Kelly Rowlett's world was turned upside down when she innocently sent a DNA sample to Ancestry.com and learned that the man she'd always thought was her father was not her true biological relation. Rowlett contacted her now divorced mother to confirm that the test, which listed an unfamiliar name as her real father, must be inaccurate, and her mother was devastated by what she heard. It turned out, after experiencing issues conceiving, Rowlett's parents had consulted the Idaho Fertility Clinic before Kelly's birth, and had requested a university student as their donor. While this news was a shock to Kelly, the true shock came after the test revealed something far more disturbing. As with a disturbing number of similar cases, the couple's doctor had used their own sperm samples to impregnate Kelly's mother, and he was Kelly's biological father. Unable to comprehend such a heartbreaking revelation, Rowlett filed a lawsuit against the retired obstetrician gynecologist for fraud, medical negligence, battery, emotional distress, and breach of contract, proving that some things are better left unsaid. For more...
Jeez. That's actually effed up. It's very effed up. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing is that people shouldn't have dug too deep into their family tree. Because there is a lot of baggage in there that once you learn, you can't take back. It means it means that someone you're related to is a criminal. It could mean that someone, basically anything really. It's kind of shocking to hear this kind of thing, because again, I wasn't expecting this. And what is up with doctors at fraternity places and putting their own DNA in people? Like, what the heck? Yeah, never trusting a doctor for that kind of thing, if that ever came up for me. Because I don't think I would trust the doctors anymore. Because what the hell? Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think is the most messed up thing here. I'm saying it's like the fraternity doctors, because that is the most messed up thing, because they're basically lying to people saying, yeah, we got this person's as a donor, and we can apply it, and then apparently not. It's not the donor, it's literally their own doctor. Like, what the actual... I am truly terrified for those that decides to go to these places now, because that ain't right. Because we got cases like someone just wants, I don't know, someone that has similar hair color and eye color, so that it won't be much of an issue or something like that, and bam, the doctors lied, and then it becomes a lot of people's problems. It's insane how that works, and I find it a bit concerning, in truth. So, yeah, anyway, again, hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!